that to say that trans women aren't women. I am just saying that those pussies that they got, you know what I mean?
And I want to break this down because there's a lot of things I want to touch on. First of all, I want to say Dave Chappelle is one of the most he's the best comedian I've ever seen. And don't get me wrong, I watched a couple of the Dave Chappelle shows and or Chappelle show, some of his previous specials too, or I should say comedy shows that he did before. But this latest run of specials has been phenomenal. I was watching a Mark Twain special that they put on Netflix when he got honored, and he said something that stood out. He said, "Comedy is the only form of entertainment where you can still be free and express your own opinions and thoughts. But we live in a society now that they're trying to take that away from comedians, and he's not saying the things he's saying in these specials or whenever he's performing to upset people." But it's because he stands for comedy. He represents comedy, and he's fighting for comedy. And I think this is the thing I hate the most. The LGBT community. I understand a lot of y'all don't like Dave Chappelle, but why do you continue to watch his stuff if you don't like the man? If you know every special he does, he's going to say something. So why watch the show? I get it. I know why you watch it, because you want to see what he's going to say next and then pick it apart. But why watch it? If it's like, if Ian McDonald's is bad for your health and you one cheeseburger away anyway from being in the hospital, why would you go buy 3 quarter pounders? Like it just don't make any sense. And that's the part that frustrates me, is that I understand everybody has different opinions. Not Dave Chappelle's not going to be everybody's flavor. I understand that. But why watch a special if you know you're going to be offended by it, right? And then the second point I wanted to make too, and someone pointed this out, and I thought it was perfect. You have Netflix employees who probably never even watched a special, and I'm sure a lot of people who are complaining about the special haven't watched it, right? But they're walking out, staging protests, trying to get Netflix executives, fired, storming executive meetings. But where was this outrage when Cuties came out? Because we talked about Cuties. We did an episode about Cuties. Where was the walkout then? Nobody was complaining about 13-year-old little girls, stripping and dancing provocative on the stage, but y'all getting mad over a couple jokes. Like, come on, man. Like, that's the part that frustrates me. It's like, this man, he speaks the truth. You can't say what he says in his specials aren't true. You just can't. You can't. And if you are going to say that, be able to defend yourself and back it up. And if you do feel that way, cool, that's fine with me. But don't be one of those people that every time he drops a special, you right there in the front row, you're paying all this money to see him, and then you go right on the blog. Oh, Dave Chappelle said this. Oh, he's transphobic. Did you watch the special? Because let me tell you, one of the parts that spoke volumes towards the end, for anybody who didn't watch it, he talked about how he had a trans woman, San Francisco, and she was a known name, and she was just trying to get her foot in the door into comedy. And one time he was in San Francisco doing a special, and she came up. Oh no, she was in the audience, and they was doing like a one of those heckling kind of things, not in a bad way, but you know how a lot of comedians like to point talk about audience members. And that started a friendship with them too. They had a nice back and forth. She got the crowd, laughing with her jokes and rebuttals to him. And they started a friendship. He used to, every time he came to San Francisco or she needed advice, he would reach out to her, try to help her, or when he was in town, get her to come on a special or his specials. And he was talking about how she bombed the first time that she went on stage, and people was booing and it was like, get off the stage. But when he came on, she did a nice back and forth, and she ended up stealing the crowd from him. And she did a lot of things for him. He was a mentor for her. And he asked her, he said, I say a lot of offensive jokes to a lot of people, especially with the LGBT community. Why are you not upset? Like, I'm surprised that you want to be my friend. And she said, Because I'm a comedian just like you. I'm not just a trans woman. I'm a comedian. I love comedy and I love what you do. So, yeah, your jokes may not be flattering for a lot of people, but you're a comedian and I respect that. And I will stand by that. And you stand on what you say. And he was talking about how towards the end of the special before it ended, he spoke about how the last special he did, she defended him. She went on Twitter and defended his special, and talking about how he was a comedic genius and how great it was, and that she wasn't offended by any of the jokes. And the LGBT community mobbed her. I mean, they crucified her on Twitter, bullying her, and she committed suicide. And
are you serious?
oh yeah,
See, sorry to cut you off, but I feel like, and so it's set in stone that due to the backlash from her defending him, that's why she killed herself.
Yep.
These people should be fucking ashamed of themselves, in my opinion. I think that it's honorable. Well, one, it's very sad, first and foremost. So let me say rest in peace. Two, I think the fact that she was like, yo, or, that I'm an LGBTQ person, I'm trans, but then I'm also a comedian. So what I am does not deter the fact or shirk the fact that I'm also a comedian, and that I can understand that Dave Chappelle didn't mean any harm. I'm gonna ask you in a moment, like, what his jokes actually were verbatim and what they actually were offended by. But it's not like, I'm pretty sure he didn't say, oh, all, every gay person in America should die. Like, if he said something like that, then I would understand, the backlash, but I'm pretty sure that's not what he said. You know what I'm saying? And I think what he said was probably comedic in nature. Yeah, you could probably take offense to it, but what you take offense to really is a personal choice. You know what I'm saying? And most people's words only really have as much power as you give them. Right. This is just a situation where these people feel like they are above critique. You know what I'm saying? Because we live in America, we live in a country where there's so many, different types of people from all different walks of life. And up until maybe recent years, no one has been exempt from critique or commentary into the LGBTQ community. And it's like, yo, what makes you above everybody else? You know what I'm saying? Because people make jokes about Black people, people make jokes about white people, people make jokes about Latinos, Middle Eastern, Asian, but all of a sudden these people can't, be spoken about in a certain way. Mind you, Eddie Murphy, was making jokes about gay people back in the 80s. They weren't saying shit before then, or I feel like back then, I'm not even going to say that they didn't have a voice, because they did, and they did have a presence, obviously, because he was talking about them. But back then, it was all good because, they didn't have such, political, social, economic clout like they do right now. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that she killed herself, to me, they should feel bad, but I'm pretty sure they don't give a fuck. Right. You know what I'm saying? All they really care about is just not being, disrespected or slighted in any kind of way, when more often than not, that might not have even been the case. This almost kind of makes me want to watch the Netflix special myself, just so I could see if it was that bad.
Let me tell you, it wasn't, any of the jokes. I think the last special he did the whole, in the car ride and how the trans was in the backseat and stuff like that. He didn't make jokes like that. Honestly, this special wasn't that funny, but I don't think it was meant to be. I think it was meant to be a way for him to sum up his points and really just ham home the fact that it's not that he has a problem with LGBT community, because like the story he told at the end, how he talked about how he doesn't care or judge, people's sexuality. It's the fact that they're limiting people's speech, right? And even Caitlyn Jenner came out and she spoke highly on the special, which you would think, a lot of people might say, oh, she defended him. Why? But even she said, and this is, for quote, Dave Chappelle is 100% right. This isn't about the LGBT movement. It's about the woke cancel culture running amok, trying to silence free speech. We must never yield or bow to those who wish to stop us from speaking our minds. That's perfect. I think it sums up exactly what he was talking about. I don't think any of his issues is with the LGBT community because, like he said in his own special, I'm an ally to you. But what I don't like is the fact that I could say the N word. I can make fun of black people, Mexicans, fat people, but I can't make one joke without you guys, without people sending me death threats, without people trying to cancel me, or people trying to stop me from pursuing the thing that I love since I was a kid, which is comedy. And I stand with Dave Chappelle. I know a lot of people may not like his comedy, but he's honestly the last breed of a comedian that pulls no punches. I mean, this guy just does whatever he wants to do, but he also speaks the truth. It's not like he's just out there making homophobic threats, kill all gay people, trans people. We shouldn't care about them. Let them all die. He's not saying stuff like that. But what he's talking about a lot of times is he's comparing how protected they are against the black struggle. You can't deny it.
You know why? Because not only are these motherfuckers bullies, but I feel like they're frauds because what was it? The National Black Coalition of Justice. Like, first of all, that's an LGBTQ organization, you know what I'm saying? But yet they put the word black in it, but then yet you don't see these people, jumping up in arms when an actual black person, you know what I'm saying, a heterosexual black, man, woman, or child or elderly person is going through it. They don't say shit, you know what I'm saying? So why do you think? So that's one of the reasons why is because they hijack Black Lives Matter, because when you go on the Black Lives Matter website, in their mission statement, nowhere in that mission statement does it mention black men, women, children, or black saying elderly people. It only mentions black trans folk, saying black lesbians and people of the specific people of the LGBTQ community. So that's what I'm saying. So of course, they're in a certain position of protection, saying in society because Obama made it so, saying while he was in office, he didn't do anything for us, saying he did everything for them. He made same-sex marriage legal. He didn't make any how should I say, he didn't make, let's say, like you know what I mean to fucking say, I'm going with this shit.
Yeah, right.
it's like I've said this so many times. It's like I'm trying to find a new way to say the same shit.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, nobody's got a problem with the LGBTQ community, but don't think that you're exempt or better than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is Dave Chappelle, and I feel like the only reason why Dave Chappelle is able to kind of go tit for tat with these people is because he's Dave Chappelle, and then he's been Dave Chappelle since the 90s. So he kind of has, firm ground to stand on. Whereas them, like they're a strong entity within themselves. But, and to me, it almost seems like they use their power for bad purposes or selfish purposes rather than using it to actually help people. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like, if it was like, if they were supporting black people, then things probably will be different, but they don't do that. Right.
And, one of the turning points in the special was just for, spoiler alert for people who didn't see it. One of the jokes that he was talking about, or one of the things he was talking about was J.K. Rowling after he was talking about the baby, who everybody knows was, people, the LGBT community try to get him canceled.
He got canceled.
Well, he did, but I'm sure he's making a bounce back. I mean, it's only so long. He's
still making money. I mean, that's like when we talked about Long Beach, Griffey, and Heavenly Controller. They're still out there doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I think cancel culture is a thing, but we're dealing with the illusion of cancel culture rather than actually being canceled, where it's like your career is not going to thrive. Because I looked at the baby shit like yesterday. I was like, I haven't heard from this guy. Still doing his thing. It might not be like out on the forefront anymore, but he will always be the baby to somebody.
Right. But yeah, one of the things he was talking about, J.K. Rowling, and he was talking about how he agrees with her about how gender is a thing. And he was talking about how the trans community got mad and tried to cancel her about it. and he was saying that he's team turf and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people saw that as a transphobic comment. And this is not an episode where I'm here to debate whether trans people and gender. Yeah, I'm not here to debate all that, but I think I see that's probably why a lot of people got offended. But like he said, he made a joke about the baby. He was like, "Isn't it ironic that the baby went up? The baby was in Walmart, and I think North Carolina, and he shot a man in cold blood. Not in cold blood, but in I think it's self defense. But he shot a man dead. But the moment he goes to his own concert and say something that they don't like, he gets canceled for that. But he's not in trouble for shooting and killing a man. And like I said, Dave Chappelle, he is the last breed of a dying, I wouldn't say dying art form, but a very centered art form. And a lot of comedians are coming out and talking about how, they're losing gigs over saying jokes. A lot of club promoters are caving into the demands of the LGBT community because, they don't want to lose money. So if they don't like a certain comedian, you ain't working here no more. And it's not right that, we live in a society now where artists, comedians, actors, anybody with a public forum who express themselves with art is being censored. If what is next? They're going after Dave Chappelle. Are we gonna now cancel actors for playing a rapist in a movie? Are we gonna be doing that now? It's just to the point where it's like, what is the big deal? When I think about comedy, Andrew Dice Clay, one of my favorite comedians ever, aside of Dave Chappelle. But Andrew Dice Clay, if you want to talk about transphobic or homophobic, that dude would be the dude you look at and be like, yeah, he's crazy. Like, this dude was from New York, so I already know how we get down. So he was brutal. Like, this dude was just brutal. But he was funny. I liked him. Now, that's a guy I can see, to a certain degree, why people will cancel him, right? But at the end of the day, you know who Andrew Dice Clay is. You know who Dave Chappelle is. You know what you're going to get at these specials. You go to Kevin Hart show, you're going to get family jokes, Pop-Tart jokes, son jokes, and, just over-the-top funny stuff. You go to a Dave Chappelle, well, you're not getting that. It's not going to be a family-friendly PG, night out with the little kids kind of show. So I don't understand why people are watching it if they know they're going to be. I think that's the part that mind blows me. It's the fact that they know he has a special coming out or he has multiple specials. You've seen most of them. What do you expect? Like, what he's going to do. So why watch it? Why watch it?
Well, I mean, that I wouldn't even say that's like a really like a LGBTQ thing. I think that's shit, like dumb shit that people just do in society anyway. A lot of times people will see, a title and the video is clearly going to consist of some shit that they don't like or they don't agree with, but yet they'll click on it anyway just to throw shade, throw negativity, leave a dumbass comment. That's just some shit that people just do in this new era of society that we live in. And that really stems into like the late 2000s, when social media, really became prominent. Like, we talked about Soulja Boy before, and mind you, the majority of Soulja Boy comment sections and, the replies to Soulja Boy's tweets are from haters that are following him. You know what I'm saying? Like how saying backwards, is that. But I think we're moving into an era right now where it's going to get worse from here. So the fact that you're aware about what's going on right now, that's just you feeling the noose around like your voice, your throat getting tighter and tighter. And the thing is, people don't seem to care because the average person is just ready to comply and do what the fuck that they're told.
Right.
And a lot of the people that are creating these new rules are people who are in cahoots with the LGBTQ community for whatever fucking reason. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why, but I just know that they're in cahoots clearly because they've been doing a whole bunch of shit to make life for them as comfortable as possible, at least a lot better than what it used to be. And I'm not saying that's not warranted because, gay people have been under attack for a long ass time. It wasn't okay to be gay way back in the day. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you were gay and you were walking down the street, motherfuckers knew you were gay, they probably just beat you up or try to, you know, kill you, you know what I'm saying, for no reason.
Right.
So I'm not saying that that's, you know, without warranted, because they're still human beings too. But at the same time, when it gets to the point where you cannot even, you know, exercise your freedom of speech, you know what I'm saying? That's a problem. And people are fine with that. Like, you look at Letitia Wright, she's saying certain things, and then people want her to be silenced. People don't want her to voice her opinion. But it's like, why? You know, why is it that we have to live in a society now where, because we're moving to a point now where everybody has to think one way, and it's going to be illegal, or it's going to feel like it's illegal to think for yourself. That's where we're getting to. So it's good that we have certain people of a certain status that are willing to stick their necks out for the greater good, which is being able to say what you want to say, how you want to say it, and when you want to say it, and not having the fear of some sort of, you know, backlash. Because let's be honest, that woman who killed herself should still be alive right now. She should still be alive right now. Like, if it was just fine to just voice your opinion and not have to worry about, you know, some weak ass backlash, she would still be here right now.
Right.
So that's why, if these people really care, like, what do they really care about at this point? Like, do they really care about somebody? Because if that was the case, you were the impetus for someone killing themselves because they threatened her, you know, put her down, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. Like, that was their fault, or they had something. Ultimately, it was her choice, but still, like, they were a factor in her mind, because I'm pretty sure when, as you know, as famous as you are, when everybody knows you, if it feels like the whole entire world hates you and you're getting threats and this, that, and the third, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is why I feel like that in and itself is like hypocritical and like counterproductive to what they say that they want to do. If you look at their mission statement, you looking out for your own people, right? Well, your own people is just saying, well, I'm one of y'all, but we don't think the same. But that's how you bridge the gap. You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like see, Dave Chappelle that's a start in the right direction. I don't know what he said, but what I do know is that he's just voicing a contrary opinion. So then what do? You take that contrary opinion and then you put it next to another contrary opinion, and then you bring them together however they can come together. And then that's how you grow. And people will have a better understanding. That's why I say that the bridge between love and hate is understanding.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The problem is you're dealing with two different groups of people that feel like one party means the other person harm. And maybe that might be the case. Sometimes that might not be the case. But why not talk about this shit? But yet we're not allowed to talk about it because it's like, oh, well, if you don't agree with what we're doing, then we're not even going to talk to you, and we're just going to cancel you and attack you and all other types of shit. And then you have people who aren't even LGBTQ that are okay with the way that things are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like, I don't think things will get better, in my opinion, because there's too many people in this goddamn country. And then two, it's like you have so many people that don't have that capacity to realize, like, yo, the way that you know, get to the bottom of some shit is through communication. But most people, they don't want to, they misuse their voice. I think, you know, we talked about like podcast episode, 7 or whatever it was. And I was saying that most people don't understand the responsibility and the power of having a voice, you know what I'm saying? And because again, he didn't say they should all die. He just spoke truth, you know what I'm saying? Which we all know is true, whether motherfuckers want to admit it or not. He used his platform to speak his truth. They have their truth too. And then meet and speak about it. If you guys don't like what's being discussed, and you can go your separate ways, but at least you could say, I had the benefit, or we had the benefit of discussing shit. Yeah, we might not have ended up on the same page, but it didn't result in, the worst happening. And mind you, it already did, because you had somebody that wasn't even directly involved that killed themselves. You know what I'm saying? Right. So these motherfuckers, like I would say that I lost respect for them. I feel like I did a little bit more, because I don't think that any of them felt bad, because they're still running their mouths talking shit about this shit right now.
Right. And I'm going to bring up something that I was reading about the walkout, but this brings me back, because this conversation is not just about Dave Chappelle and the LGBT community. It's about something that even Caitlyn Jenner said. It's about free speech. And it reminds me of an episode I did, not for my podcast, but I went on somebody else's podcast as a guest. But it was 12 of us. And I remember we was talking about comedy, specifically Dave Chappelle, the last special he did. And they were asking about free speech and stuff like that, or should comedy be censored? And I stood my ground and I said, I don't think it should be censored because at the end of the day, it's all jokes and it's somebody's truth. But even if you strip all of that, it's freedom of speech. As long as you're not calling to violence, which is illegally, you can't do that, right? But if you're voicing your opinion, if you say, I don't support transgender people, is that the right thing to say? Probably not, but it's still freedom of speech. Everybody has an opinion.
Exactly. They have the
But
right to their fucking opinion.
And that's what I said. I said at the end of the day, comedy is subjective. Not everybody's gonna like fat jokes. Not everybody's gonna like, the people like Dave Chappelle who talks about realism things and talks about social awareness and social justice issues, right? But at the end of the day, you choose what you like, and if you like, the Pop-Tart jokes and the dad jokes, watch comedy like that, but to say that you should censor somebody just because you don't like them, isn't that dangerous? And I would say about 9 people on the panel disagree with me, calling me out, saying, if it's offensive, then, it shouldn't be allowed. Well, what's offensive to you, it may not be offensive to me and 10 other people. So just because you're offended, that means that joke can be said just because you don't like it. Is that the society we're living in now? That's the biggest issue I have. It's not the fact that the LGBT community or other people have a problem with the special. It's the fact that, y'all taking this uproar and y'all trying to uproot everybody's lives to get this man canceled, to make him lose money. For what? Just because you don't like his special? Well, I'm sorry you didn't like his special. And I mean that. I'm sorry you didn't like it. And I hope that maybe, somebody else could come along and create a special that's more, inclusive for you. But just because you don't like it doesn't mean millions of other people didn't like it. I'm pretty sure millions of people love that special. And I don't think it's fair that a small group of people get to decide the fate of one person just because you don't like it. And as I was talking about the walkout, so let me tell you what the walkout and what their demands are to Netflix executives. Let me break this down. So the list of demands presented to Netflix executives includes making long-term investments in content from trans, non-binary, and BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color creators.
People of color.
Yeah.
They need to stop with that shit. Don't even mention us because they don't have our fucking best interests. They only have the best interests of people of color who are trans, lesbian, or gay.
Right.
Stop. Don't fucking mention people of color when you're not even next.
Yeah. But let me just finish this list.
We don't answer to fucking terrorists, yo. Literally, fucking terrorists. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. These motherfuckers got somebody killed, and they got the nerve to ask for fucking demands and shit like that. Like you really care about black people. Get the fuck out of here.
Right. But yeah, let me just read the list of demands that they got. All right. Let me just read what they're demanding of a comedy special they didn't like. Right. So making long-term investments in content from trans, non-binary, and BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous, and people of color creators, fully inclusive spaces for trans and LGBT BIPOC employees, and accountability when content causes harm. So, yeah, I mean, it sounds cool, right? But it's only centered around one thing. You have to be in the LGBT community. That's exactly that's the only focus. It's not about black people. It's not about other minorities. It's only about people within the LGBT spectrum. And over what exactly? Because a comedy special you didn't like. This is not like it's not like this. It was a thing of Netflix to fire LGBT community members, employees, I should say, or treating them unfairly. This is not what the demands is about. As demands is about the fact that the same people who sit up here and brag and punch down, because like they said, Dave Chappelle punches down on them. but they have no problem punching down on him or other people that don't support them. But these are the same people that had nothing to say when Cuties came out, which was essentially child pornography. But they
probably support that. I bet you these motherfuckers would be the first in line to go see Cuties and shit like that. Man, blame Obama. Blame him for real, because like I said, like these people, they won't stop until the American flag is changed to a rainbow, and that's not even a real fucking rainbow, because the top of the fucking spectrum is supposed to be purple. You know what I'm saying? They got red up top, and red represents your lowest fucking self. Like, you know what I'm saying? Look, put it like this: I know people who are gay, and they are nice people. You know what I'm saying? But if you're a bully and you have that bully mentality, and then like all you really care about is yourself rather than like making the world a better place for everybody and using, your organization and, your people to help everybody else, then cool. But that's not what they're doing. Like everything, all the information that you've presented to me thus far, it just sounds like bullies, in my opinion. It's like a bully bullies other people, but they don't want to be bullied themselves. It's like, nigga, right. You're a fucking hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, yo, like nobody, I don't know, yo. Like I only see shit getting worse. And then they probably would, you know what I'm saying, go ahead and fucking change the flag to a fucking, upside down rainbow. They probably would do that shit, because this society now, it's like if you don't pander to these people, they got a problem with you. Straight up. That's where it's headed right now. If you do not pander to these people, if you're not like, oh, we like whatever the fuck people do to pander to these motherfuckers, if you don't pander to them, they'll try to cancel you for that. And fortunately, like I said, it's only because it's Dave Chappelle that he can kind of, you know what I'm saying, make it through the adversity. But somebody else that couldn't do that.
Right. And that's the point I was making, is these demands and everything. It really goes back into, look, I'm sure there's going to be people listening to this who are offended. And that's not me or Dimitri's intention on this. But it's the fact that we stand with Dave Chappelle and we understand exactly what he's saying. And what he's saying is, allow me to do what I do in my own space. If you don't like it,
get the fuck
don't
out.
Watch. Yeah, exactly. Leave. Don't show up. Don't purchase tickets, or just find somebody else that suits your needs. You know what I'm saying? But this whole everybody has to pander to you nonsense, it has to stop. But you know what, though? You know why I'm not mad at them? Because this is the society that we live in. The society of, the snowflakes, the very sensitive. Like I said, I'm from New York. So a lot of things I say could come off hurtful and sensitive. And a lot of times it could be good intention. But we live in a society now where when you don't agree with somebody, you're considered racist, homophobic, transphobic. You're this, you're that. Why is there labels to everything? Just because my opinion don't, correlates with yours. But I think what Dave Chappelle was trying to make, the point he was making too, and you mentioned this too, where it's like, isn't it ironic that the people who preach about inclusion did this to their own people? Somebody part of their community, all because they support this man, they killed her. I don't care how you slice it. Oh, she didn't have to kill herself. I don't care how you slice it. When you bully somebody and you claim to be an inclusive group who's a part of your group, but because they don't support the same ideas you don't like, and you bully them to the point where they have to commit suicide, then you are the problem. And I don't want to hear about, oh, it was probably a misunderstanding. No, you're a bully. And I support, and I stand with Dave Chappelle. I think a lot of these people, especially in the LGBT community, are bullies. If they don't get what they want, they're gonna make lists of demands, they're gonna walk out, and they're gonna force your hand. And unfortunately, I know one of the Netflix executives that came the moment the special came out and controversy started. He came out and said, I love the special. We're not taking it down. And I mean, Dave Chappelle got paid anyway, so whether to take it down or not, his bank account
doesn't matter. Yeah, he already got his check. But I feel like I said, the message, because somebody has to say something. Somebody has to say something, and there was a lot of people that wanted to say it. That's a fact. Like, I know Dave Chappelle's not the only one that probably wanted to come out and say what he said, but he was just the one that did it. You know what I'm saying? And he's taking, the bullets and all of that ultimately costed somebody their life. Like I said, like you said, I stand with Dave Chappelle, but I just really want people to come to a place of diplomacy and communication and eventual mutual understanding. Like that to me is the goal. It's like people will complain about what society is and what it ain't, but then yet when you find yourself at odds with somebody else, you don't even want to talk to them.
Right.
You don't even want to talk to them, but you want to make things better, right? For who? You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yo, like at least because I think I might have saw like a TMZ, a title where he was just like, yo, like I'll meet with y'all, like I'll talk to y'all, but it's gonna be a scenario or situation that makes me feel most comfortable. At least that was the gist of what I got from that, and at least that's what you do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what other countries do. You have the leaders, and then they go, and then they sit, and then they talk, and then they try to come to a place of understanding. But yet, average people don't even want to do that. Like I said, I don't. I know gay people. They're cool. I've sat and I have a podcast episode with one of them, like literally just touching base. And then before that, we were just talking about relationships and everything, like his walk of life or his experiences and mine. Like they can still coincide, even if they're not 100% the same. And the same thing goes for how should I say, experiences and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Oh, most definitely. I've spoke to a lot of. I just did an episode with a guy. He saw the last Jubilee video I did, so he wanted to have me on the show and talk about some of the points that I made. And I talked to him when we cut off, and we was just talking, and I asked him about. I was curious about the Dave Chappelle special, and he was like, I thought it was great. I have no problem with it. And it goes to show you that just because you're in the LGBT community doesn't mean, you have to have the same opinion. And my point throughout this whole episode, which I was very looking forward to making because I have strong beliefs too. And I fully support what Dave Chappelle, his mission. I support his comedy and I support the theories that he makes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, for me, we should move back into a society because we're not in this society anymore. But we need to move back into a society where having a difference of opinion shouldn't make you an enemy. Me and Dimitri, let's say we disagree at this whole conversation, right? Is it right for me to just cut the camera off and just end the episode just because you don't agree with me? No. It's not. It's not fair. Not only to you, but it's not fair to the people who wants to listen. And I think ultimately that's what it has to come down to is being able to sit down, meet, hash out the difference, and you could agree to disagree or come up with a resolution. But you can't come to a table and say, hey, come here, sit down. Oh, this is how I feel. And then they say something back and it goes one ear, goes in one ear and out the other. And then you say, oh, well, here's my demands. That's not how conversation goes. And we all know that's not how people operate. So at the end of the day, for me, no matter if you like Dave Chappelle, you stand with free speech, you're in the LGBT community, you're a person of color. I don't care what sexuality or gender or race you are. We should be able to disagree or agree, but be able to have a conversation and either walk away or walk together. So, do you have any final thoughts, man?
My final thought is that people need to know how to disagree. There's multiple ways of disagreeing with somebody, and most people's go-to is disagreeing with somebody in the worst kind of way, which is it devolving into insults being thrown and things that are totally unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like once people can kind of sort of wrap their mind around that, then people will be able to coexist and say whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like, yo, I should be able to just tear down a whole, group of people. I'm not saying that, but the goal should just be able to just have real freedom of speech and just, say what you feel you need to say. Like, just like how they can say whatever they want, Dave Chappelle should be able to say whatever he wants.
Exactly.
But I feel like that era, is very, very far from where we are right now because everything now tailors to problems like this. Everything like lends itself to issues and scenarios like this constantly taking place, because this ain't nothing new. You hear about these things all the time in the media. So, that's my final thought. Go watch my YouTube channel.
You believe this guy? I ain't even asking him to plug his stuff. You believe? Yeah, go ahead, Dimitri. Where people can find you besides YouTube? Because I know you have Instagram and everything.
Well, yeah, YouTube. You can find me at you can find me at Mr. DJ dash MDJ, and Instagram Dimitri Dews Jr.
Another episode for the books. This was one of my favorite episodes because this is something we're both passionate about. We can have a 3-hour conversation about this whole thing, but just for the sake of the audience and people's mental awareness, let's keep this short and brief. But ultimately, like I always say, a helping hand is a better hand. Thank you, Dimitri.
Peace.